Thank you very, very much, Mr. President. I appreciate that generous introduction. Jennifer, I thank you for your very kind comments this morning as well, and I'm delighted to be in the presence of students and faculty and administrators here at Howard University. It's truly an honor to be on this campus, and I thank the students as well, who I met earlier along with Jennifer, the various student associations. I'd be remiss if I didn't also recognize the Connecticut Young Dems who are here, and I thank them for coming out. It's always good to have local folks show up to give you a warm welcome. Dr. Franklin Chambers, the Vice Provost, and I thank you, Doctor, for receiving me at the door this morning. To the Student Association, as I've said, and to members of the 10 and 11 a.m. business orientation class, I gather as well, are here this morning. So I thank all of you, and I thank Sandy Cloud, my good friend. We've known each other since Sandy was a sophomore here at Howard University, so it's been a long and wonderful relationship. His sons worked in my office. He and Diane have been great friends, and a remarkable person, not only in his corporate and business life, but a great state senator in Connecticut, a great candidate for statewide office in Connecticut on at least one occasion, and a good friend. And so I thank him for coming down from Connecticut this morning to be here and to welcome me at Howard. I appreciate Jennifer reminding the audience of my two young daughters, Grace and Christina, age 5 and 20 months respectively. And the reaction, I may have white hair, but I'm still doing okay here as a Democrat and all of this. I've got to tell you, first of all, the introduction. I thank you for the introduction, both of you. You always should be introduced in an audience. Not long ago, was speaking at an elderly housing luncheon program in Middletown, Connecticut, a place I've visited with some frequency over the years as a member of the House and a member of the Senate. I usually just walk in and start talking at the lunchtime. A few weeks ago, I walked in and I started just talking about Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security issues that I thought the audience would be interested in. I got all through, and I asked if there were any questions. And there was a woman in the front row, looked like she was well into her 90s, little white hair on her, little ribbons in each hair. And I said, "Yes, madam, what is it?" She stood up, she said, "Who the heck are you anyway?" So it's always good to be introduced. People don't assume who you are. But I was thinking, as you, Jennifer, mentioned my daughters, when Grace was first born, I brought her to her first meeting with a pediatrician. And any parent who's been through this, the great joy and pleasure of taking this little 7 pounds of joy into the doctor's office. And there was a fellow in the doctor's office, Mr. President, holding his head in his hands, looking rather anxiety-ridden. And with him was an 11, 12, 13-year-old young lady who was about at her last meeting, I guess, with a pediatrician. But she had about 14 earrings in each ear. Her hair had about 8 different colors, yellow, orange, blue, green. Pair of hip huggers on, looking sort of nasty and sassy. He's got his head in his hands, looking anxiety-ridden. I'm oohing and cooing at the 7 pounds of joy. The fellow looked up at me and said, "Little girl?" I said, "Oh, yes." He said, "You see what happens when you feed them here." So I'm very nervous about where this is all going to end up with my daughters. Well, I've come today to share some thoughts with you about where we are. We had a huge election, of course, in the country last week, and so it's appropriate in a sense we talk not only about politics and less about politics, but what does this all mean, and where are we at this stage in the beginning of the 21st century, and what are our obligations? What do we need to do to try and get things right, both here at home and abroad? And to take a few minutes discussing those thoughts with you, and then, if time permits, I've asked Jennifer and others here if we might just have a Q&A period as well. So rather than just listening to a speech, to also respond to some thoughts, a chance for you to ask a United States Senator some questions that may be on your mind. So I thank you for your presence here today. The election last week, some have called it an election. I really think it was a referendum in many ways. And the message was not just to throw the Republicans out of office, in my view. In my view, it's just as much a message to all of us who serve in public life that it's time to put partisanship aside and come together in this country to get back on track again and simply do the job that the American public want us to do, to resolve our differences and move the nation forward. So we've been given an opportunity and a message, in my view, a moment in time to come up with some better answers than we have over the recent past history. And we need to make the most of this opportunity, and that's what I want to talk to you about here briefly this morning.